Welcome to the last module of our MOOC about biodiversity and global change. The purpose of this module is for you to think about how you can help biodiversity and in this way become a biodiversity ambassador. This week we want you to focus on your assignment, so we have kept the number of videos to a minimum. In the next video, Owen is going to talk about what being a biodiversity ambassador means. In this video, I want to remind you why we need to help biodiversity. Talk about why your actions matter. Discuss one important thing that you can do to help biodiversity. And talk about the conflicts we might feel with respect to our actions. There are lots and lots of things you can do to help the environment, but I can't mention them all in this short video, of course, so I made a list and posted it on the course website. So why do we need to help biodiversity? The global human population has grown from about 1 billion people in the year 1800 and 2 billion in 1927 to approximately 7.5 billion people today, and it continues to grow. This growing human population needs more space to live in and more space to grow and produce its food. In addition to food, we are creating and using a large amount of other products, thereby using an increasing amount of energy and resources. And more people also means more waste and garbage. As a result, many non-human species and natural habitats are undergoing a great decline. The numbers of individuals per species is decreasing, as is the number of species. At the same time, the climate is changing, so even in natural habitats where humans aren't present much, there are changes happening. If we continue like this, then eventually we'd have destroyed all natural habitats and a large number of species would be extinct. Does this sound like a world you'd want to live in? Do you want future generations to live in a world like this? I don't have children and I'm not planning on having any. So I could be telling myself that it's not my problem. Why should I care what's happening to future generations? Why should you care? Because we have a responsibility. We are enjoying the benefits of what Earth is providing for us, and we have the responsibility to not use it all up and leave nothing to others. We have the responsibility to treat with care what was given to us. If you go out into nature and you see two beautiful flowers, do you take them with you to put them in a vase on your dining room table? Or do you not touch them so that others can enjoy their beauty as well? Some people argue that if we consume less and travel less and do other things to help the biodiversity and mitigate climate change, that this could hurt the economy and cost us many jobs. I'm not an expert, but I think that by changing our ways, we can create new jobs. Humans have always been inventive and creative, and I'm convinced that we can come up with lots of practical solutions and new kinds of jobs. We can transition to a system that is sustainable and fair. To say we'll keep doing business as usual and in the process destroy the environment and kill lots of people just to save a few jobs sounds pretty crazy to me. I hope that by now you are convinced that we need to do more to protect biodiversity. But you might be thinking, how can I, as an individual out of 7.5 billion people, possibly make a difference? Well, what do you think how we got into this mess? By lots of small actions of billions of individuals. So in order to get out of this mess, we also need to do a huge number of small actions of individuals like you and me. It all adds up. There are so many examples where you can see the power of the people, whether it's in business or politics. Everywhere you can see how lots of small actions can make a huge difference. For example, when I talk with people about not booking a flight in order to save emissions and mitigate climate change, sometimes they answer, but that airplane is flying anyway, whether I'm on it or not, so how does it make a difference? Well, sure, that airplane on that particular day that you wanted to book your trip on is going to fly anyway. But if lots of people fly less, then the airlines are going to cancel flights. This became very obvious after 9/11, when many people were too scared to fly, so demand for air travel dropped significantly and immediately. Did the airplanes keep flying like before? No, of course not. This graph shows airline fuel consumption of US carriers for domestic air travel in millions of gallons in the months before and after 9/11. In the 5 months before September 2001, here shown in blue, consumption was almost 6 billion gallons. In the 5 months after September 2001, here shown in green, consumption was 4.8 billion gallons. That's 20% less. That's like 1 in 5 flights being cancelled. And this drop was immediately, so don't tell me that airplanes are flying anyway. They are only flying when people book the flights. When demand drops, airlines will cancel flights. So yes, what you do does matter, and that applies not only to air travel. In any commercial enterprise, consumer demand is a huge power. If people stop buying something, producers will stop making it. Another area where the sum of individuals has great power is in politics, and not just during elections. The people have the power, so stop worrying whether you can make a difference. You do matter. So do something, take action, help biodiversity. But how? There's so many things you can do, too many to mention them all in this video, so please do check out the list that I posted on the website. The well-known mantra, reduce, reuse, recycle, really covers a lot of the things you can do. And you probably know about many of these things and are hopefully already doing some of them. I'm sure you are aware that different means of transportation cause different amounts of carbon dioxide emissions per passenger per kilometer. I must admit I was surprised when I looked up the numbers and found that air travel emits less carbon dioxide per kilometer in person than buses and some cars. But with an airplane you usually cover way more miles than you would in a car, and that's what makes it so bad. There's a very important way in which you can help biodiversity that you might not be aware of yet, and that's your diet. Eating animal-based foods like meat, fish, dairy, and eggs hurts the environment. Why is that? The production of animal-based food like meat, fish, dairy, and eggs as compared to plant-based foods requires a lot more water, uses up way more energy, produces more CO2 and methane, produces more waste, mainly in the form of excrements, and uses up more land. If this represents the amount of agricultural land you need to produce the food for one vegan for a year, then this is approximately the amount of land you need to produce the food for one vegetarian. And to produce the food for a meat eater for the same amount of time, you would need this much land. Or, put another way, with this amount of agricultural land, you can provide the food for 1 meat eater, or 2.5 vegetarians, or 5 vegans. Of course, the exact amount depends on how much and what kind of meat the meat eater eats and what kind of food the vegetarian and vegan eat, so this relationship can vary quite a bit, but you get the idea. Why is so much more land needed to produce the food for a meat eater? The main reason is that in order to produce 1 kilogram of meat, you need to feed an animal up to 21 kilograms of grain. And with 21 kilograms of grain, you can satiate a lot more people than you can with 1 kilogram of meat. Eating fewer animal-based foods is one of the best things you can do because it helps everyone. It helps to mitigate climate change, feed other humans, it helps to protect natural lands and water, reduces pollution, it is good for your health, and it means that fewer animals have to suffer. So it would be nice if we all became vegans or at least vegetarians. But I know how hard that is. I'm not a vegetarian myself. However, I try to eat very little meat. I find it very hard to forgo something completely that I really like, be it chocolate or be it meat, but I'm thinking that being near vegetarian is still better than eating meat on a regular basis. So if you're now thinking, I guess I should be vegetarian, but I could never do that, well, that doesn't mean that you should abandon the idea altogether. Just try to eat vegetarian as often as you can. And when you do feel like you need to have animal-based foods, for example, because you're in a restaurant and you don't like any of the vegan options, then make an environmentally conscious choice. This image illustrates the relative amount of carbon dioxide that is emitted during the production of these non-vegan foods. So please do avoid eating beef and lamb as much as you can. Better stick to chicken and eggs. So to sum up this video, we all can do something and we all should do something. Each of us has to decide what they want to do and how much. And that's your assignment for this week, to decide what you want to do to help biodiversity and to tell us about it. I'm looking forward to seeing your contributions.